howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. And we're back with the repeat offender from a long, long time ago that everybody on this channel has been missing a lot, and a lot of you newer guys probably don't even know who this is because you came along after he was on the show the last time. But North America is not the only place that research on Sasquatch happened. And of course, you've heard of the Yowies in Australia. Yeah, there's researchers down there too. There's researchers in Russia. There's researchers all around the Himalayas looking for the Yeti. And there's researchers in Europe. And one of them that was there doing research for years is our repeat guest tonight. And of course, I'm referring to Mr. Robert Boston, Bigfoot in Germany. Welcome back to the show, buddy.
Hey, there we go. How you doing?
Yeah. Good to see you again. I'm really happy that you're back. You're now Nevada Bob, not Bob in Germany. Yeah, so it makes it a lot easier to stay in touch with you and have you on the show and whatnot.
Yeah, those time zones are murder.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, the last time we did a show, I think it was just audio only, and then you sent me a lot of pictures and video. So nobody even got to see the mystery man, Bigfoot in Germany, the man in the black hat with the giant 50 cal that he carries around, keeping French ogres from getting him.
I do have a picture of that, actually.
I think that was the last show you were on, called The Ogre, when we were showing that picture that you got right on the French border, that looked like Shrek, but orange instead of green skin thing.
Yes. In fact, that was the area that it was really interesting, because when I shot that video, I called that the Enchanted Forest, because all the hills that were over there in that area, there were cedars now and then, but it was primarily oak and beechwood, like ancient trees that were 3, 4, sometimes bigger feet.
The kind of thing you would see like in an old 1930s Robin Hood movie or something, right?
Yeah, actually, literally just like that. Before they clear cut everything.
Yeah, right.
Oh, the trees are smaller. But this one particular area, right at the top of the hill, and it was literally just one like really small area. It was birch and cedar. I think it was birch and cedar. That whole forest was. I shot that video, and when I released it, it was within 2 weeks. The Forstmeister came in and clear cut that whole area.
Oh shit!
The whole thing, like, gone. And it was interesting is that there was magic mushrooms growing all over that section right there. And I mean, when you see a magic mushroom that's like 12 inches in diameter, and there's this gigantic freaking bite out of it with a huge area of grass right next to it, 9-10 foot long freaking section of the grass where it's all matted down. And you're like,
oh my God. So basically, if you were lucky, that was a Bigfoot that was eating that. If not, you had a shrooming ogre watching you when you were there.
Well, there you go. There you go. That was weird, man. That was really, really freaking weird. Sitting there pushing the freaking branches down, looking out through the bow.
Did you see him at the time that you filmed him, or was that after the fact?
In fact, it was behind that, and to the left is where Big Red was screwing up his courage. So I was paying more attention to that and not really looking at the viewfinder.
Oh my God!
I barely swung it over far enough to get him in the frame.
Oh my God!
Yeah. In fact, it was after seeing that I started looking, paying very close attention to in between the boughs, and then also under the trees, because they'll belly crawl in up there, right up underneath the tree where the branches are really low to the ground, like on trees, and they just sneak right in there and watch you. So that became a habit of mine. Let's look through the boughs. Okay, look under the tree. Just gotta be sure. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Man, oh man, and again, it's for the benefit of the listeners who may or may not have seen that show in the past. We don't know what the hell this thing was. We're not saying for sure it was an ogre. It was in the right place geographically to be an ogre. That's
And
where the legends came from. And it looks exactly like an ogre, but we cannot guarantee it was an ogre.
according to, who is it, Pixar or whoever the heck it is that
Well, yeah, like you're going to trust them to get facts straight.
Right. Well, I wonder sometimes.
Yeah. Who are they getting their info from?
Exactly.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. There's a good one. That the Bumble.
Yeah.
Bumbles can't swim.
Yeah. Right. Oh, okay. So here comes on the heater. Is it too loud?
I can't even hear it.
Okay, perfect. Perfect then.
Perfect loudness. No one can hear it. Well, probably my other listeners that can hear something will probably hear it, but I can't hear it. So
it's pretty soft and it won't run for very long.
Well, so anyway, they're getting around to the topic.
Bigfoot,
flesh and blood, or paranormal supernatural.
Yeah.
I say both. What do you say?
I would also say both.
Okay, well, that was it for tonight's show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you really enjoyed it.
Nice to see you guys again.
Well, you know what we could do? We could explain to them why we think that. That might be a good idea.
Well, paranormal. Well, I would include things like interdimensionality.
Yeah.
Paranormal. You know, and I find it funny how people seem to think that just because something can jump from one dimension to another, somehow that when it gets over here, it's like a ghost or something, instead of flesh and blood, leaving, tracks, eating, pooping, whatever.
So anyway, that's kind of the page that I'm on. And there's a lot of the weird stuff that people have observed them doing attributed to physical things that they can do, because their physical abilities are so much better than ours are. They can run really fast. They're ridiculously quiet. They can climb like as fast as they can run practically, and all the other stuff they can do. And then you get to the point where you start getting to a line and you're going, we're seeing this repeating weird stuff that we have no other way to account for than that there's something paranormal going on. Because no matter how freaking great you are, you can't just go doot, 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 out into the middle of a snowy field
and then disappear.
Yeah. And, maybe you can jump 25, 30 feet to the edge of the field. What if the edge of the field's 100 feet away?
I circled. I was a tracker in the military.
I know a bunch of people that have encountered this, and they're all good hunters and trackers, and some of them are military. So I'm not buying that hogwash anymore.
That's right.
And no, they're not backing up step after step in their tracks. You can do that during the summer, maybe, where you're only going to leave an impression on the ground. But when there's snow there, no.
Yeah. And all your track edges are nice and sharp.
Yep.
One step in,
Yep.
But then they're just gone.
Yep.
Poof.
So there's weird stuff going on there, and I have a bunch of other guests that have been on the show that have talked about this too, and Robin McRae being one of them, where she's actually got a picture of one fading in and out.
Yes.
It's got a baby and it's standing there. It's just starting to fade out. She gets a picture of it. She's seen him do it walking across her yard, and like part of him's cloaked and part of him isn't. So you see it's like a torso floating through the air, and you're like, ah!
I've seen that in Germany too. Another weird thing that I saw that was always only within, I call it the Bigfoot woods, but in very specific tracks over there, was that we don't see the forest for the trees. That's a very common saying, and there's been several times where my video camera would pick up trees up in the sky that don't make it all the way to the ground.
Yeah, okay.
Branches coming out of a tree, growing back into another tree. That's weirdness.
Yeah.
Our knowledge of the way things are in the world, that stuff doesn't happen. It just
right. Well, what we're told the world operates, those laws that we're told that it operates under. Another thing is, in the area that you ended up doing a lot of research in, there was very likely some kind of a stationary portal there, because there had always been weird activity, and there used to be like an enchanted lake there, and there was a war over the control over this lake, and
Yeah.
all kinds of weird shit, and there's still weird shit to this day going on there.
Yeah, very, very much to this day. You know, in fact, where that lake was, the whole idea behind the war was that there was 5 villages that were around the lake, and that was their water source. This is like 300 years ago. The village that I lived in backed up the side of a mountain, and there just was no place for crops. And so what they wanted to do was fill in the lake and make a, you know, stream system that went to all of them. And the other villages, none of them really got along with each other, but I mean, they took it when they started killing each other off. And my village was the one that actually won. So now that's all farmland. But what's really weird is to the edge of that farmland is a strip of grass that's maybe 50, 60 feet wide. And then there's apartment buildings. And I could show you photos time and again of large hairy things in the bushes looking in the windows to those apartment buildings.
In that teeny little strip of land.
In that tiny, tiny little strip of land. And well, what's really interesting is that the creek that our village ended up with is actually between that farmland, the bushes, there's the creek, and then bang, you're right into the back of the apartment buildings. And in those bushes, right along that creek, is where they would be, time and time again. I mean, and orbs, and I would have to say like fairy lights, and I mean just all kinds of weirdness. But you know, everything from little people to, you know, big giant hairy people.
Yeah.
And
So now, anyway, you had already run into the Sasquatch phenomenon when you were over here in the
Right.
U.S. and actually gone out and done some research on it and stuff.
Yeah.
But from what, you know, talking to you about this before, when you got over there and found out that stuff was going on in
I
Germany, you were like,
fun.
what?
That was it, because you know we never hear of anything happening in Western Europe. Yes, you get, you know, almost Yeti, etc.
That's way over there in the east, though. Yeah.
But not in Western Europe. There are towns named after them in Germany and in Austria, like literally. And I forgot the name of it's Wildermann or something like that is the name of the village in central Germany, where they actually have a Sasquatch as the city fountain, because you know, back before indoor plumbing and everything, you had to go to the city marketplace to get a bucket to get your water for the day. And there's a Sasquatch wearing a wreath of flowers around its head, holding out its hands, and the water comes out its wrists. So it just like you fill your bucket up with Sasquatch juice, I guess. You know, it's like,
well, and if you look at this, and I know exactly which one you're referencing, I've shown it on the show before, and it was either on episode you were on, or it was on episode Rich Soul was on, where he talked about Bigfoot over in Europe and stuff that happened over there during the Black Death, and how that may have related to, and you know, and previous other things. But anyway, so yeah, there's Der Wildermann standing there, spouting out water out of his wrist in the middle of this huge fountain, in the middle of this antique old town. But if you look carefully at him, he looks exactly like the Green Man in England.
Yes.
The wood woes on the Isles over there.
Yeah.
They depict him the same way all the way across Europe. The old woodblock print from the night fighting one in the Black Forest from 500 years ago.
Which I missed that one.
Yeah, there's an old woodblock print from 500 years ago of a knight in full armor fighting a Bigfoot in the Black Forest. And actually shows a bunch of his dead retainers in the background.
Yeah.
He's going at him with a two-handed sword.
Yes, I have seen a picture of that. And unfortunately, I never made it down to the Black Forest when I was over here that last time. which really sucks. So that was only about 45 minutes away from where I lived. But instead, I would make the 2.5-hour journey down into the Alps and into Austria. But yeah, Wildermann is that name, which simply means wild man,
Oh man, yeah.
is everywhere. Guest houses, hotels, restaurants, towns. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere.
And the other thing that a lot of people don't think about, we think about Europe being so overbuilt and everything cut down and stuff because, like we look at Britain too much. But other parts of Europe aren't necessarily like that. And the Germans did a really good job of saving a lot of forest. There's a lot of forest in through Germany and Austria.
This amount.
Yeah.
They have an 87 million population there, and they only use 5% of the land mass as population centers. And most of them are the old small villages, but instead of continuing to grow out, spreading out, they build up. So
Right.
you talk about high density freaking populations, man. God, just no elbow room whatsoever at all.
No.
But of what's left, about half of that is farmland, and the other half is literally old growth natural forest, just going like crazy.
With their Wilderman running around in it.
Over the place. Yeah. Especially running through just north of Stuttgart, going all the way up into the Frankfurt and Wiesbaden area. It comes down through there, which is all the way up in the middle of the country. That's all forest all the way there. Like literally all the way there. We're talking, well over 100 miles.
That's a lot of forest. Plenty of places for things to live.
And they don't cut down their trees because they don't use lumber for things like building and stuff. Everything is cut stone or cultured stone. If you're going to build a house, the very first thing you get is a crane to pick up the stones and drop them into place. It's crazy. They pop up in the spring like mushrooms all across the city. All these big freaking cranes, I mean, they're freaking everywhere.
How the snow melted. Look at a bumper crop of cranes this year.
Exactly. Or ice melted because there's not much snow there.
Now, did it surprise you? How long was it that you were looking into this on your own over there before you found out there was other people over there, not only in Europe, but in other parts of Germany that were also doing research?
There wasn't, unfortunately, enough researchers I have only ran across about 5 or 6 of them over there, all the way to the north, up to the North Sea.
I know of 4 just in Sweden. So the Scandinavian countries have more researchers. Yeah. They're pretty aware of what's up there.
Yeah. Well, that's the weird part is the old folks in Germany, they know too. It's like my mother-in-law was in her 70s and she, survived World War II as a kid and ended up growing up in a tent city while the cities were being rebuilt. And the first time I came back with a photo of one and I showed it to her, she got this all misty-eyed, memories, sweet memories from when she was a kid.
The good old days when I was living in the mud right after everything got bombed flat and the Sasquatch used to come and stare at us.
And just sit there and stare at the kids and watch them as they,
oh my God,
recess, et cetera, in these tent cities. Because, those were always set up outside the bombed out frickin',
cities, yeah.
Finding, bomb. Today, they're still finding bombs from World War II.
Oh, hell, there's areas from World War I you still can't go into. They're too dangerous because they never cleared all the ordnance out of the ground. Yeah. But as far as that goes, can you imagine being her and being that little kid in that situation? It's like life is weird enough already. Your country's been bombed flat. You're living in a tent city on the edge of the woods. And what the hell is that thing over there?
Exactly. What is that? But yeah, she was the only one that survived, too. So it's like, I mean, she was literally alone. A 10 other kids that were the same way. But it was really weird to see her get all misty-eyed and everything. It's like, what, what? Oh, they used to come to the edge of the trees and watch us play. Holy smokes!
Yeah.
And the other was weird is the people in their like later 30s, mid 30s to later 30s on up into about the 50s, my age and a little younger. They're entirely too busy trying to make a living to even think of such a thing.
Yeah.
But they're teenagers on the other. A lot of times they'll go out into the woods and party. And guess who shows up?
Well, teenagers here do that too, and then they have Bigfoot stories, and then the adults go, "How much beer were you kids drinking and hallucinating seeing Bigfoot, huh? You go back out there and get that cooler."
Yeah, right.
And it better not have giant bite marks in
it. For real. Yeah, so it's kind of weird how it seems to like skip the generation, but and it's weird because
Do you think are the kids there being culturally introduced to any of like finding Bigfoot or anything, so they'd go, well, that's kind of weird, should we look at the woods over here? Or?
Yeah, not really, not much. And unfortunately there's I had taken my my stepson out. He was 20, 21. I took my sister-in-law out, used her as bait. She knew she was being used as bait. She knew it. I was, which was interesting because we had some pretty good captures on film. But yeah, it just wasn't, like my stepson, several of his friends wanted to come out, especially after they'd seen photos. But they never made it.
No.
They never made it out. He only went one time. And there was a huge thump. We were up on top of the mountain near where the enchanted forest had been before it got clear cut. And there was a massive, like one of them jumped out of a tree and hit the ground. That low frequency thud went through that. And suddenly he needed to go to work.
Yeah.
We had to leave and go down.
I actually experienced that once when I was walking up a mountain here up in the Yak, about a 2-hour drive away from here, with one of my friends, and he was sick. He was just, recovering from being very sick, so he couldn't even walk up the hill. So I had his girlfriend with me, and I was walking up the hill looking for tracks, which I found too. And she was looking for mushrooms, which were in season. So I was looking for more tracks, which I wasn't finding, but I was finding mushrooms. So she was following me around, and I'd be like, 2 more mushrooms over here. She'd come over and get them, and I'd be looking for more tracks and stuff, looking for tree snaps, whatever. And all of a sudden we heard the same thing, that thud, and you could feel the ground shake. And it was just like somebody had dropped a truck out of a tree or something, except minus the breaking glass and crushing steel sound.
Right.
Just this massive kawomp.
It was like dropping a 1,000-pound sack of concrete or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A
wrecking ball or something. And we just kind of went, it's time to go back down the mountain now.
Yeah, you can hear a little, but it was so deep, and it stopped like a dead blow hammer does, very, very low frequency and just kind of a ripple through the ground. And he goes, yeah, I got to go.
I got to go now.
That was quick. Just imagine what had happened if it had been, a face-to-face encounter or something. I would have probably had to drag him down the mountain unconscious. Yeah, that was really something. I got to go now. Yeah, I think I have to go to work. Oh my God.
So anyway, some of the weird paranormal stuff, you observed a lot of it. I've been relatively free of it, except for like one incident where I think they actually did some mind speaking with me, and then as we showed in the last episode, where I had Robert Kreider on, and I referenced it. We were up in Coloma, and Sonny got a picture. She felt like something was watching her. Turned around, took a picture, and there's something bending the light around it. And if you look around the edge of it, there's a Sasquatch head looking.
Yes.
So that's like, okay, you guys explain to me what bends light around it. I'm not saying that was a Sasquatch. There was one in the background. We couldn't see what was bending light around it because it was bending light around it. Okay. Yeah. But there was also another one that was on the other ridge line that we got in the next picture she took. where I was down the hill at the structure and way up the ridge line over in the distance, there's one standing there watching us too. So being that there were two of them and something bending light around it, that makes me lean toward might have been a Sasquatch bending the light around it.
Yeah.
Other observed weird things. People talk about infrasound all the time, and I think you and I both agree they've got infrasound.
They have it, but I don't think that's what happens when you get zapped.
No, that could be something else. Although, like I mentioned, my research buddy Michael has had a couple times where he's been trying to film something with his cell phone, and it wouldn't.
It wouldn't focus.
It wouldn't focus.
Yeah,
it was just all blurry and stuff, and then he'd go or something, and it would focus again. And he's done that 3 times and got it on video each time that he did it.
Interesting.
So we're leaning toward there's something, there's something audio to the way they're doing that one. But there's other ones that we can't explain, and I also like to reference right at the beginning of my show, during the intro music, right before you see the 2 dogmen. There's a wall of bushes and there's a flash.
Yes.
Well, in the middle of that wall of bushes, there's a booger who is peeking at Bama Bigfoot that's got him on camera. And all of a sudden, there's that flash, and then her camera dies. And her zapped the camera. Okay. Yeah. If that was infrasound, there would be no visible flash.
For the little people lately. I don't know where they're at. Hey, don't be zapping me. Alright, knock it off of you.
So there's something else to it.
Several times where in this one particular grove of trees, where I would see like a flash from my peripheral vision, and all of a sudden my batteries are dead in my cameras, and anything that I had a battery plugged into, boom. It's like, what am I hunting ghosts here? What the hell?
Yeah.
Because of course they deal with the same issue. The weirdest part about it is that I'd had a situation that had happened earlier, the very first time that I went out over there. I had my iPhone. It was an iPhone 6 Plus Pro Max, whatever the heck the darn thing was, and I had it in my t-shirt pocket running video. And then on top of that, I had a Nikon DSLR also shooting video. And I had just walked out of the parking lot into the forest down this old Roman road. And here comes a rock coming in through the tops of the trees from my left. And then another one from the right. And then another one from the left. And then all of a sudden I hear what sounds like an 80s hairband drummer losing his marbles. Just going to town, except that's up in this tree. And I start to bring the camera up to see whatever the heck it is that I'm, making all this racket up there, because it was loud. I mean, freaking loud. And all of a sudden, my iPhone, I heard that electronic sizzle, like something just burned up. And I could smell it, and it's like, what the heck, whatever, and I continued on with the Nikon. I've got a good picture on the back of the camera. So I went and filmed another 45 minutes. And when I came back, the iPhone footage and the Nikon footage ran exactly until it hit that point. And the iPhone was done. That was it. I had a black screen, and I could never turn on the camera again. I had to actually have the camera module replaced. it was able to fry just the camera module. Everything else in the phone worked perfect.
Yeah.
The Nikon, it only fried the SD card. From that point forward, that card was never able to be used again. And so it's like, what in the hell? That was weird to take out two cameras at the same time and only hit the SD card in my expensive camera, only hit the camera module in my iPhone, which was only like 12 euros to replace the stupid camera module. So yeah, I'm going, that's weird, but it did an identical freaking second. And I'm like, how in the hell is that possible? So I started doing some digging, and the only thing that would come up with was an electromagnetic pulse.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. So I started carrying an EMF detector around with me. And, I would go out there 2 to 3 times a week. And at least once a week, I would get zapped, and sometimes pretty hard.
Did it go off when you got zapped?
Yes.
So it wasn't electromagnetic.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh,
Now that's interesting because I know somebody here.
in the
And I'm not gonna say who it is because they haven't been on my show, so I don't have permission to talk about who it is. But there's somebody else here in the Bitterroot Valley that goes out and does research occasionally, and they got curious about that, and they carry one of those meters around with them. And where they go, they just drive up in their vehicle and sit there in the area for a while, and just and they've got the meter sitting going. And he claimed that whenever they show up in their cloak, that friggin' meter goes off.
Yes. I have followed them because the one that I have is directional with a microphone. It's used in the construction industry. And so if you've got like an EMF leak into, like, say, an office building or something like that, it needs to be shielded or people can get sick.
Right.
Which I find interesting too. And so it's directional. So you can point it and I'll be sitting there getting a reading of some like absolutely astronomical freaking number, like 1684. I'm just like, and all of a sudden the number starts to go down. And I start moving it around, and all of a sudden it goes back up again. And I'm in the middle of the freaking woods. There's no high power tension lines over there.
Right.
There's no, underground power lines and stuff. Every village has its own little substation, and that substation feeds, and the power line literally jumps from one house to the next, to the next, to the next. And kind of weird how they do it, but they use 220 over there too. So, absolutely crazy high numbers. Like if I was to and sometimes off a tree, I would be like, okay, it's pretty low, and I would start, moving around to find the peak of it is, and I start moving in that direction and walk right up to a tree, and I've got this crazy number, even worse, like up in the 3000s, and then it would be like exceeds the ability to read, but it does like flash unhealthy.
Yeah, you're not in a particularly good spot right now.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing. When we were up there at Coloma, and not very far from where we actually got that picture with the whatever it was bending the light around it, there's two big standing stones, two menhirs, and we had been up there many times looking at those weird things right next to the town, and they just don't look natural, really weird looking. And we had Paranormal Portal team up there 2 summers in a row. And one of the guys, Dan Pruitt, had all kinds of ghost busting gear. That's what he does, so he's got all the electronic goodies. And he brought his gamma ray detector and stood up there in between those 2 stones. And within a minute, he got 2 gamma ray bursts, which you should never get one there ever,
Right.
much less 2 within a minute. So leaning pretty heavily toward, that's an active portal at this point. A sight you've seen before. The menhirs at Coloma. Let's take a walk up.
Somebody's messing around moving rocks up here for some reason.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So
Wow.
and this was just like you go up the hill a little bit further from there where there was another big pile of boulders right at the edge of the tree line. That's where she got the picture of the object bending the light around it. Just beyond that, going down the hill, there's 100-year-old Bigfoot tree structures
Wow.
that they must have put there right after the town got abandoned.
Oh, there was a town there that got abandoned?
Yeah, about 100 years ago.
I wonder why.
It used to be 82 people. They went to 82 structures. God knows how many people were living there. Oh, that place is just cursed and haunted and everything. The locals are scared of it. They say there's Sasquatch and little people live there, and it's haunted. And when the ghost team was there, they were getting all kinds of EVP stuff the whole time they were there. They were getting, question and answer time with them. So whether it was a Sasquatch with them or they were actually talking to ghosts. But the second night they were there, I was up there with Caveman and Kevin for one night with those guys before we went over into the Sapphire Mountains, and they showed up the next night by themselves. And right before dark, Brent was just panning around to the camera while they had the sound gate going, and we're trying to see if they could pick up any sounds or anything. It's really loud, so anything around there could hear this for a long ways. And he's zooming around to the camera, and there's something up on top of the ridge watching him. And as he goes by with the camera, it goes, ducks down. Well, gee, I wonder what that is. I did the breakdown on that one. Yeah, it was about like that wide and about 8 or 9 feet tall and black. So you guys could guess what it was.
Got a pretty good idea what that was.
Yeah, we found traction those guys around there too. Might also be who was bending the light in that other picture. But
Yeah.
we've gone up there lots and lots of times and found tracks, and that's one of the things that we find in a lot of the active areas around here is they have quartz deposits. That place, there's chunks of quartz the size of your fist lying all over the place on the ground.
You know, what's weird is Germany, especially in that area, has limestone everywhere. And there's the old stone tape theory where it says, limestone can somehow record historical events, and maybe. But there was the one section that I called Bubba's Woods. Right there was that's the same creek that runs through the over there by where the farm field is, comes through there. And right, basically like the entrance, there's kind of a natural entrance going into this grove of trees. There is more quartz that I have seen, more than I have ever seen outside of the High Sierras. Tremendous amount of quartz. And what was weird is up inside there, maybe 50 yards in, there's a huge teepee structure, and then it's boxed out on the ground below it with a big X on the ground through this teepee structure. And usually there was a big pile of quartz crystals right there next to that teepee structure. Weird. Why? And I'm not sure where that quartz came from. I mean, that whole area, the whole region is sandstone.
Yeah.
Or, or not sandstone, limestone.
Well, the area I do research in now this summer, apparently they left me a big pile of rocks to gift me. And I noticed that the first time we showed up in the campsite in the spring, and we were the first people had been up there for 9 months, and we knew because the fire pit hadn't been used. Right. The kindling that we left there was still there. Nobody had used it, okay? So here's this mysterious pile of rocks where I always park my vehicle. I'm like, these weren't here last fall. That's kind of peculiar. Somebody was just screwing around picking up rocks, and they made a big pile of rocks, and they didn't bring them with them. That's kind of weird. Why would you make a big pile of all these rocks that look alike and not take them with you? It's a lot of effort. Yeah. So I didn't really think about it. Next month I came up again, and I always park in the same place, and I always put my tent in the same place. And this time I actually paid attention when I was putting my tent down. Where I put my tent down, there's one of those quartz rocks about that big. And I'm like, well, that wasn't here the last time I was here.
Yeah, you would have felt that.
That's literally where I had my tent laying. I would have noticed that. It's big enough, right?
Exactly.
And then I go down to the river where I always put my cooler in the river, and there's an even bigger one, the same kind of rock sitting there. And they're the same ones that were in that pile that's still there from the month before. And then I got curious, and I got a hold of one of my friends that can contact him psychically, and they verified, yeah, those are presents for me. They're for me. If any of my friends want one, they can have one too. But they're for me, and they're all quartz, by the way.
Except for that one guy.
Every freaking one. Yeah, they were all quartz. So that was kind of an eye opener. It's not that really. They all had this kind of weird orange outside on them too, you know. Yeah. So it's like you would have had to have walked up and down that river a long time to even find one of those freaking things, or much less enough to fill up half a bag with them.
Yeah, or crack it out of the ground. All that orange stuff is iron staining. It's rust, basically.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there's some of the granite-looking formations up there look mysteriously like old megaliths too. Wow. When you start finding smooth, big granite boulders that have those little nubbins on them, like the Inca walls and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten several pictures of those, and that's right around the areas where they make their superstructures.
I did got a gifted once, and it was kind of an interesting thing because it was a stump next to one of the forest roads up there, and on the top of the stump there was 6 stones, and then in the center of it was another one. And this isn't some place where people go walk, and if you need firewood, you go back there, and they'll have a bunch of the bug-ridden trees, fall down and stacked up there in a big pile, and you just cut your firewood out of that. And so this stump was interesting because there was a huge archway made out of a beech tree, and honest to God, I don't know how the heck they bent this thing over and pinned it to the ground, because it was about 8 inches in diameter, and beech is an extremely brittle, heavy-duty hardwood. I mean, it is crazy hardwood heavy. And yet this thing, they had that thing bent all the way over. It's about 50 feet long. Yeah. And my wife was standing underneath it, and she is 5'7", and this thing was at least 2 times higher than her. Huge, massive. And right there at the point, at the tip of that tree, where it was pinned down with logs, was where this stump was. And so that was an area that I always went to check and see if there was, any changes in that archway or anything. And that's when I found the stones. So I grabbed a 7th one, and I basically, because what it looked like was, there's 6 of them that got you surrounded, Jack. So I slid them to the side and put one here, and then I put a line of them, facing me, as if we were the stones.
Right.
And I came back, I think it was 2 days later, That's
Yeah.
clear off the log or off the stump. So, well, okay. Apparently, our attempt at communication didn't work.
Now, getting back to the electromagnetic thing, we've heard, I personally have heard dozens of reports of this, and especially researchers, they report it all the time. I put out a game cam with fresh batteries and boom, they're fried instantly. I'm walking out with my camera with fresh batteries on it. By the time I get to where I'm going, boom, they're fried.
Fried again.
Battery
The
thing all
one
the
that
time.
wouldn't was the EMF detector for whatever reason. Those batteries never got touched. I don't know if they were maybe shielded, I guess,
Yeah, that's interesting possibility. Now, let me give you one that I noticed firsthand. Sometimes they'll mess around with the electronic gear that my team has with me, but generally they leave mine alone for some reason. And I've even had that where I'm walking along the river and I got a guy 50 feet away from me walking upriver, same direction at the same time. He's finding tracks, filming them, all kinds of stuff. I'm walking along. All my video's good. All his is there's nothing there.
Yeah.
They deleted all of it
Yeah.
for some reason. Well, I'm trying to film
Literally.
something, and there might have been somebody like in the viewfinder that I didn't notice or whatever. And I bring the camera up and I go to turn it on, and it says battery's dead.
Yes.
I'm like, no, the battery can't be dead. It's just not connected properly. So, no, it's snapped all the way in there. Somehow the battery's dead. So I unsnap it. I put it in my pocket. I pull out the backup fresh battery
Yes.
that hasn't been used. I put that in. Battery dead.
Now that one I've never had happen.
Now wait, it gets weirder. I go, is that first battery still dead? And I pull this one out and I put the first battery in. No, it's fine.
Yes.
It works just fine.
I was gonna tell you. I was gonna say that.
Blaine Tyler had this happen to him where he had a camera set up on a tripod and it was winter. It was cold. And he wanted to do this little short segment where he monologued what happened out in this field. And he's trying to film it. And every time he starts, the camera turns itself off. And he walks over and he turns the camera on and goes back and starts talking. And as soon as he does, the camera turns itself off.
I wonder if they're not wanting to get caught on camera, or is that just their sense of humor?
I think it's their sense of humor sometimes. Like in that case, they're just screwing with Blaine. Watch, this is funny. Let's turn the camera off again.
Yep.
But the other thing that tells you, unless you just get like spectacularly lucky, the only way you're getting these guys on camera is basically if they let you.
If they let you, yeah. And that's, at least in my case, has happened a lot, quite a lot, and not just them, other things as well. But there had been many times where I had just started a new battery and go walk off into the woods, and I would always carry 4 spares just because I'd had it happen way too many times out there. Battery was good for 295 minutes, and then all of a sudden, beep, it's dead, it's gone. Take it out, swap batteries, but I always take the used one and stick it someplace else. And I decided to do that once. But I wonder, and I put that so-called dead battery back in there, and I've still got 3/4 of a battery left. Well, what the heck? I think what it is those, especially camera batteries, they don't have a whole lot of voltage to them anyway, and they're made to trickle into a camera. And if they find some way to grab that freaking energy and pull it out of there, it's more than the battery can take. And it says, "Oh, I must be dead,"
Yeah.
But it's not.
Well, it was interesting because apparently they didn't like. There was something about Papa Craig they didn't like because, man, did they fuck with him. They zapped him the first morning he was there. And then they were messing with his camera. He filmed like close to an hour and a half of video. And I don't know how many pictures. And out of that, he got 4 pictures and 1 minute of video. And the rest of it was either non-existent files or a black screen or like lines going through the screen. And he had already had this camera for a long time. It's worked fine just until then. It's always worked fine since then. And there's other things too. Like when I was up there in this one area, and I know there was one following me around, because not only the usual feeling of being watched when somebody's following you, but who's watching you and following you isn't very happy that you're here.
Yes.
I was there by myself. I thought I had somebody behind me, and he had stayed down the trail. So I was probably like 300-400 yards ahead of him by the time I turned around and went, "Where's Mr. Supposed friend who's not with
Yeah,
me.
it's not there anymore.
Yeah. So, and I'm filming the whole time and stuff. I shot 2 pieces of video, one going up there and one from where I was in that area. I walked to the river and then came back. Man, that was scary. Oh my God. I felt like something was going to grab me the whole time I was there. And I turned around, just brazen it out, act like you're not scared. Keep filming. I'm filming. Don't kill me now. I'm filming.
Yeah, please don't kill me now.
Yeah. I'll have evidence. I'm filming. So I'm going down the old log road, which has mysterious logs piled across it about every 10 feet. Like somebody wants to make sure you don't go up there. Oh God.
Right.
And I finally get down to where my buddy is. By then I've stopped filming. And he's going, what are those things in that tree? There's this 120-foot lodgepole pine. And they look like squirrel nests, but they're way too big.
Yeah, like
And
more
there's
like
one about every 20 or 30 feet. There's 3 of them up there. And I'm like, is there something in that top one? So I take the camera. I'm like, zooming into it and shit. I can't see it. The sun's behind me on my screen. Whatever. I hope I got this in focus. Okay. So we take off. Now I get back after all this is over. Those 3 files aren't there.
yes.
They're literally not there. They skipped the numbers even, not there.
Yes.
And there's no way I could turn on the camera and not hit record 3 freaking times.
Yep. Yeah, I think I may have told you. I don't know. My big camera. I'd had a couple of consumer grade Canon, video cameras, but I wanted to get better footage and especially better audio. So I went and I bought an XA30. It's a pro grade camera, and then 2 Sennheiser shotgun mics on it. And I've got a couple of really, really good Manfrotto tripods. So I decided to when I got this new camera, to try to understand its capabilities, its zoom and its quality and recording quality. And I shot 3 so basically 3 videos. One of them was a long distance. Another one was actions of some kids running around playing on the playground. I'm sure the mothers probably felt pretty comfortable about that. Some guy they don't know videotaping their kids, right? But
that doesn't creep me out at all. It happens
it
all the
though?
time in Germany.
That was the only action footage I could find. And then I had Moose with me at the time. I took it to this one particular spot where you had a perfect view of the sun setting. And so I set the camera up there and started videotaping. And running video on the left-hand side of the screen was this big old huge cottonwood tree, kind of with the bark peeling off of it and stuff. And I went and played soccer with Moose. That was his favorite thing in the whole world. He didn't want a tennis ball. He wanted a full-size soccer ball. Oh, he was a big German Shepherd. Man, I love that guy. Anyway, we went and played soccer until the sun dropped down behind the trees. And basically wanted to see how the automatic function worked, shooting right into direct sunlight. And so I go over, I look on the screen, I rewind it to run that clip over again, and here's the thing is when I go to watch the video, you have to flip a switch. And when you flip that switch there, it shows on the menu, here's the 3 video clips. And so I watched the last one, and that's this thing going into the shooting into the sunset, and it worked like exceptionally well. But as I'm watching it, a pair of eyes pops open on the side of this cottonwood tree, and they look like cartoon eyes, literally. They just formed on the skin of the tree, looked around like this, and then you could see what looked like, well, honest to goodness, it looked kind of like Scooby-Doo coming out of this tree, just forming, just the facial features started to form. and then the body, and then the hands, and were starting to come out of that tree. And at a certain point, because that went on for about 10 minutes, I walked back to the camera to shut it all down and look at it, and that's what I saw in the video. As it's coming out, it's almost completely out of the tree. There's just a little bit of it still connecting it to the tree, and it no longer looked like Scooby-Doo, of course. It looked more like a dog man, and its eyes quick turned to the right, which is the direction I was coming from, and then it instantly snapped back like a rubber band back into that tree. And you could only see the eyes just a little bit. It was really weird.
Oh my God.
So I saw that. I looked at the tree and I went, oh my God. And I snatched the camera up, and me and Moose took the hell off, right? Oh, holy shit. I get back home and I go to download it onto my computer, and SD cards are blank. All 3 videos gone. History. It's like, now wait a minute. What?
Yeah.
What?
Well, a good example of that, when I had William Lunsford on, he had that one game cam picture of that huge male walking past the camera right as the light change was happening, and he's like 9 foot tall and about 5 foot wide on the shoulders. You can see from the waist up above the top of his head. He literally can't get that picture off of there. He had experts tell him, I bet you $1 million we get that off there. Bring it on down. We'll get it off there.
He can't get it.
It's like fused into it. You can look at it on the viewer and take a picture of it, but you can't transfer it to anything.
Wow. So that's like exactly the opposite, but still just as weird.
Exactly. Yeah, there's something really weird stuff going on. And then there's people that have reported having stuff that they filmed, they've downloaded to their computer.
Oh, yes.
And their computer isn't on the internet.
Yeah.
And they're setting up something like making a program, they're editing the video or something, and all of a sudden it's just boop, gone.
It's gone. Yeah. See, what I was doing is I was keeping all my footage on a separate hard drive. That way, even if I had the computer running, unless I was plugged in,
yeah,
it's not good luck, Jack. Provided it was some agency, that was pulling off the footage. But if it's something different,
yeah,
because I had a lot of footage get snaked off of that 3 terabyte hard drive. Poof, gone. Just like history, gone.
Probably a lot of times it's the poopers and snoopers in charge, and other times I think it's the Sasquatch themselves that are doing it.
Well, that's
some other agency.
And because I wasn't, when I would plug the hard drive into the computer to download some footage, I made sure that I wasn't online because
right.
Literally 2 weeks after I posted the Enchanted Forest, where I got the ogre, that whole place got clear cut.
Yeah.
So, I gotta be.
They're way smarter over there. It took them 3 years to figure out where my research area was in Patty Canyon and cut that down. They're way smarter over there than they are over here.
Oh. Yeah, it was clear cut. But, so at a point, you know about it, and other people have heard me talk about it. I got hit in the head with an orb while I was out one day there in my area. And for about a month, it was like having a really bad roommate inside your head. It just wouldn't shut up.
Taking the top. There. Okay. Batteries are all good. They're all in. I don't know. All kinds of weirdness going on. My EMF detector is going off again like crazy. 1,800 and something, and I just got a big flash of light right in my face. Where in the hell did that come from? That was weird. As I'm pulling out my beeping, get down here. As I'm pulling out my beeping EMF detector, I just got felt like a bright ball of light. You know, I've seen an orb once over by the fields, but this was weird. You can see there's a little battery. That was very strange. There it goes again, 795 on the electric side. There's nothing on me. It's electric. No batteries, no electric motors, no nothing. I should not be picking up any electric field whatsoever at all. But I'm getting one that is like so strong. It's like that alarm when it goes beep, 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 beep. That tells you that you're in an unhealthy environment. Yay! So the forest, remember that, folks. The forest is a bad place to go. Jeez. Don't go get your fresh air in the forest. Walk downtown or something. That is odd. Well, I'm going to put it away. There we go. It is now off. Dead. Put it back on its strap in its holder. That was weird. I mean, it wasn't like bright. It wasn't a bright light. But it was certainly a light. Oh, you know what? I have another camera with me as a backup. I didn't, I'm going to be prepared. So I have backup batteries, backup chips. I even have a backup camera today. What am I shooting? I'm shooting with the HFR 600 right now. That's what that is. Let's turn you around and let you see that side. The stick in the way. Hell yeah. Put you over here. There we go. So the HFR 600 is what I'm shooting with right now. That's what this is. I brought my Legria HFR 78 on a different mount. It's on a Steadicam U mount. And I think what I'll do is I'll strap this one across my back. Oh, look at that. Battery's freaking dead again. Amazing. So whatever is hitting us, sucking down the batteries. That is really trippy. What's my... Yeah, my recorder is almost dead too. The light just came on for some damn reason. So it sucked 2 sets of double A's in that. That doesn't even make sense. Does not even make sense. Alright, well, I'm going to shut this one down. The audio on the other one should really suck because it's just the camera. So, anyway, out. Yeah, this is a very, very strange forest. It's the others that... Oh, yes. Oh, that feels good. Heat. It's the others that really starting to catch my attention. Much more so than Bigfoot. I've been chasing Bigfoot for a long time. I've been chasing Bigfoot for 25 years. Yeah, you still haven't found it. It's like I haven't found my keys. There seems to be something else at work here. Something that steals keys. So I'm very interested in what what that other stuff is. Schlussel. There we go. Let's see. What is this? This is. There we go. That little coin. That's a €2. About the size of our, a little bigger than about the size of a 50-cent piece. Today's exchange rate, that's almost $3 worth of coin. Just that one. Yeah, I'm getting much more interested in these others because I've never experienced anything like that before. You know, I didn't usually carry an EMF detector when I was Bigfooting in the Sierras. I always carried a military compass, military grade U.S. Army compass. I've had times when it would just spin like crazy, usually near a structure. But I never carried an EMF detector until out here. Some really strange readings today. A lot of electrical pulses. Almost nothing on the magnetic scale, but a lot. I mean, big spikes on the electrical. There was nothing electrical around me that I could see anyway. So it's weird stuff like that. The little people. What the hell are those? You know, like I said, a lot of them, their physical characteristics match up to some of the old stories, the old tales, the old legends of elves and the leprechauns. No, I haven't seen them dressed in green, but I've seen them. I've seen beings that kind of match the description that are completely green. Hiding in the leaves of bushes, but they're not. It's not like pareidolia or anything from the leaves themselves. I mean, they're full face and half a body, completely green. Ooh, it's cold out here. Yeah, it's like this forest is filled with them, and I don't know what the hell they are. So I will keep looking. I'll scrub through this footage and the one on the other camera and see if there's anything that's worth even posting online, other than crazy EMF anomalies. Definitely be interested to see if there's anything on the Ape A50 or A80, Ape Man A80. God, I'm so frozen. My tongue doesn't want to work. My teeth are chattering. So I am going to go ahead and shut this down and go pick up some hot food at my mother-in-law's. So I have enjoyed my time in the field today. After I get through editing, I hope there's something good that you can all watch and enjoy it. So until then, everybody, thanks a lot and bye-bye.
The next day after getting hit in the head, I had what looked like a black quarter about 6 feet out in front of my right eye, and it was only in the right eye. There was a lot of video footage that I shot during that time, and none of that footage ever made it to the computer, like none of it. And so it didn't make it to the computers, and therefore it didn't make it to the hard drive. That was an entire month's worth of footage gone.
Yeah,
It's just flipping gone. But what was weird is what I was seeing during that month. The closest I can explain it or give it a description would be like being possessed. There was something inside my head.
well, I know we went over this before, and I think you were actually seeing through the veil for a while.
I was, and not just was, but still am now. I guess you have a friend that's able to see the energy around.
Yeah, Robin McCrae, she could see energy signatures even on pictures and video.
Right, same.
Yeah.
So it's like if there's something there, they can't. It's like they can't hide from me, because I'm not just looking at trees and pine
Yeah.
on the ground or whatever. There's additional weirdness going on in there.
Well, I
So,
have that fun with Robin too. If I think there's something in a picture, I'll send her a screen capture and I'll go, "Do you see any energy signatures here?"
yeah,
And usually she'll she'll circle what it is that I'm looking at, but oftentimes she'll circle just like there's something here, and you can't see a damn thing
yeah,
where she's circling.
yeah, yeah, yep. I know. Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how I vet some of the stuff that we find on camera. If we get people going, Duke, here's a screen capture. What's this? And I'll look at it, get the best close up I can, try and enhance to clarify a little bit, try and get detail out of it. If I still can't tell, then I send it to Robin and I go, is there an energy signature here? And if she circles this spot, yeah. If she circles that spot, yeah, okay, that's a Sasquatch.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I honest to God, I wish I had convinced any U.S. researchers to come over there with me. And I had made several pleas on various shows, come over, get the, you don't have to get a hotel room. I've got extra room. Don't have to worry about your food budget. You can eat with me. You don't need a rental car because I've got a car.
Yeah.
And I'm only 5 minutes door to field where I was going. Just bring your equipment, come on over and let me, introduce you to like Bubba and, Big Red, if he likes you. He didn't like me, but but anybody, please come over. And nobody would. And now I'm not there, so
Yeah. Yeah, from what I understand, there's not much of a level of interest in it in Europe in general. There's a few random people that are, intrigued by it, but not a whole lot. Well, you ran into a few of them over there. You had Bigfoot Brevin and a couple other people. So.
Yeah, I ran into Claudia. She was awesome, absolutely awesome. She lived up in Wiesbaden.
Is she the one that had the weird picture of the Bigfoot coming out of the tree with the lady in white?
No,
who was that?
That was a buddy. He now lives in Colombia. He's an American, but he lives in Colombia. But at the time, he was up in Bremerhaven.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Joe. Yeah,
I still got that picture. That is a really weird looking picture. I'll probably throw it in here.
Yeah, that is especially that tree going, oh,
Yeah. It's just like what you were describing with a face coming out of the tree and looking all cartoony and stuff. It's like, what the hell?
That was the most surprised look on the face of a tree I'd ever seen. Yeah, that is a wild one. And then of course the lady in white standing right there in front of him, obviously is what he's like reacting to. I wish you could. I would have really liked to have seen what her face looked like, because you can see the long hair and the white dress, flowing dress and stuff. But yeah, and then there's that one branch that goes down past like her arm. But I would have loved to have seen what her face looked like. It would have probably killed me because who knows. But
yeah,
sure scared the crap out of that tree though.
That thing happened. The lady in white spectral being and Sasquatch critters nearby comes up in more than one place.
Really?
Yeah, there's several of them here in the U.S. One of them was on Sasquatch Chronicles. Wes had the guest on talking about it, where they had seen there's a really aggressive group of Bigfoot that lived over on this hillside. And they saw this woman with like Rasta dreadlocks in white, really tall, with like tennis shoes on, going across the pasture, and they're like, oh my God, she's going to get killed by these things. She's out there by herself walking over toward them. They were running over toward him like, miss, stop. She turned around and looked at him and vanished.
Oh, crap.
And to make it even worse, I can't think of exactly where the name is in Australia, but it's like the most notorious place for disappearances and Yowie sightings and stuff like that. And they have the same damn legend there, where these truckers won't stop on this stretch of road at night because they see this woman in white, and the whole area is infested with like killer Yowies that'll grab your ass if you stop there. Nobody will camp there. Nobody will stop there.
Wow.
So that comes up in more than one place, is what I'm saying.
I had no clue. Wow. That's a trip. That is really a trip. I had no idea, because that was the first time I had ever even heard of a correlation. And based upon the look on the face of that tree, he didn't seem to be.
He's like, oh damn, it's her. I'm out of here. I'm going back in the tree.
That poor tree.
And that's an interesting thing too. That's in several of the native tribes talk about that, about them being able to hide inside of trees, or maybe using trees as portals to jump short distances from one place.
That's what I saw on more than one occasion. I mean, that was that one time when I got it on the camera with the dog man coming out of that tree. But there had been many, many times where I'd seen them down at the meadow, which was forest all the way around it, deep forest all the way around it. Another thing that I had seen on multiple occasions from little people is sucking on grass that was growing in the ground, even if it was like dead dry grass. As long as it was attached to the ground, they would suck on it like a straw and just gone, just freaking disappear, man.
Wild.
Yeah. So
and that reminds me of something I was talking about earlier today too. Super genius Bigfoot researcher Rich Soul from Knox Gigas has been on the show a bunch of times, and we're going to have him on again because it's kind of timely to talk about the possible pandemic that wiped out the Sasquatch a couple times too. And one of the things he wants to bring up is, again, some of their weird cloaking abilities and possibly the transdimensional ability. The last show I was talking to Robert Kreider, and I was talking about the presence of quartz. Virtually everywhere where we have heavy activity, there's quartz. And he said, well, in a lot of places where there's quartz, there's gold. And just about everywhere we find them, we're finding gold.
Right.
Okay, which one is it they're attracted to? And Rich was listening to the show, and he said, I think it's both. I said, what? And so, okay, on the one hand, you got Kat Hansen saying she's observed them actually eating pieces of quartz. And we've observed them moving pieces of quartz around for some reason, gathering them up for some reason.
Right.
Quartz tuners and radios get certain frequencies. Right. And then there's the gold side of it. Like monatomic gold, Ormeus, has interesting properties where it's like essentially transdimensional, and it will disappear and reappear.
No way.
That.
Even as a gold miner, I'd never heard of that. Maybe that's why I haven't been doing so well lately. They just, it's disappeared on the other side right now.
So if you combine the two, between the quartz and this one weird mineral that has these transdimensional apparently properties, could be why they're eating this stuff. That's my presumption. They're there because they're eating this stuff so they can do their little trick.
Yeah, in Germany there isn't gold. The majority of the gold's over in Switzerland, and I don't mean in the banks. I mean like literally
in the ground.
Yeah.
What little they haven't mined yet. Well, think how long they've been mining gold over there. There couldn't be that much left near the surface.
Every time there's an earthquake, there it comes back again. There's more. Comes up through the fissures in the rocks, and as soon as it gets high enough, it gets cold, cools off. That stuff goes solid. So yeah, every time there's a good earthquake, there's a whole new batch of that stuff. But yeah, as far as in Germany, you find a little bit of what we call flood gold, just that dust, flour gold.
Run down and wash down the mountains and the rivers, or just in the ground
near Munich, but none of it makes it past there. It's just the rest of it's just limestone. Except, Bubba's Woods had that big old pile of frickin' quartz. No idea where the
Well,
hell
see, that's why I'm starting to think there's some kind of correlation there, because this quartz thing keeps coming up a lot.
Yeah, all the time, and every single spot that I'd ever been in where there was heavy duty activity, there was a heck of a lot of quartz. In fact, the time I had my face to face in California, it was quartz and granite pretty much everywhere, and a creek. But I mean heavy duty quartz and granite everywhere. That whole elevation, which was about 7,000 feet, was nothing but quartz and granite everywhere.
Interesting side note, my favorite research area, we're in a mountain valley in the middle of a mountain range at 7,000 feet with granite and quartz all over the place.
There you go. And I'm guessing
also on a ley line.
There somewhere too?
Yeah, also on a ley line.
Yeah. Wow, that's something. Let me go grab some water.
Yeah, let's take a quick break here. I'll run some intermission music.
Little boy, this little girl, their mother and father too. They all have an urge, and oh, what an urge for something to munch and chew. Choo choo. Now these are just swell, and this rings the bell. The popcorn is crispy and hot. Then others again have a terrible yen for a drink, then hits the spots. Go go. So if you want candy, the lobby is handy. A condo with suites and a crew. With your kind permission, we'll have intermission. We're ready to serve all of you.
So anyway, back to the conversation now. One of the things that we didn't really touch on too much yet, we talked about infrasound and we talked about possible EM abilities.
Yeah.
We already know that they can probably see in a little bit wider visual spectrum than we can, because they definitely seem to be able to see further into the infrared spectrum. We already know that they have different vocal cord arrangement than we do. I have insider information on that, and yeah, guaranteed they do. They can sing a 3-part harmony by themselves.
All by themselves, yeah.
All by themselves.
But,
yeah. The other possibility that comes to mind here now is how many times have we heard it reported that they're around and all of a sudden there's this area of dead still silence?
Yes.
Now, how are they doing that? Is that an electromagnetic emanation, or are they using ultrasound, which is the range that all the little animals hear and broadcast in? And like if you do a dog whistle, we don't hear it, but the dog does.
Yeah,
and that's the same range all the little crickets and bugs and stuff all operate in. So if there's this tremendous loud noise in their hearing range, they're all going to shut up. We won't hear it though.
Yeah, we don't hear it. It happened in the Sierras back in 2009, 2010. I was up in a area that me and my partner had been going to for quite a while, actually, and we just come out of the woods, walked across the forest road to my pickup truck, and I had my pickup truck backed up to this drop off to a creek, and it was probably a solid 15-foot drop to the creek, and then up the other side was a good 20-25 feet. And we looked out across the road, and there was a stump there, and laying like parallel with the road that we had just crossed over, there's it looked like it was probably a Sasquatch laying there. And I had just had like this video clip downloaded into my noodle, that was weird. It was the closest thing I can come to saying that I had mind speak.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're sitting there on the backside of the truck. I had the tailgate down, and partner standing there behind that, and I'm standing next to it. And he was the first one to point out, "Hey, look at that! Is that a Sasquatch laying on the ground behind this stump?" And I looked and I go, "Well, it sure looks like it. Holy crap! That looks like it." And he goes, "Shoot it. Go ahead and shoot it." He says, "Then the whole question will be over whether or not they exist or not." And normally I carried a 500 Magnum, but that was back at Smith & Wesson getting fixed, warranty work. So that day I had a 12 gauge, and I had Renneke slugs in it. And I took, instead of actually shooting the Sasquatch, which I didn't really feel good about, in fact, there was kind of a guilt, I guess, on my part. I don't know. It didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. But figure, with its head sitting right up onto the side of this stump, if I shoot the stump, maybe it'll make it move.
Right.
And nope, nothing moved. So I jacked another round into it, and but first of all, as we're standing there, this is the important part. It goes back to your question. While we were standing there and looking at this thing, all of they went silent. It was so quiet that like our ears were ringing. And what we didn't realize is that a female had come down that hill behind us and was like hiding right behind a tree, no more than probably 20-25 feet from us. I went up and I grabbed the shotgun out of the back seat, took aim, and then I ended up taking another step forward. And when I took that next step forward, aiming at the stump, all of a sudden all the noise came back. And I, pulled the shotgun up, and I turned around and I looked at my partner, and I go, "Do you hear that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I don't hear anything." I'm like, "What?" And I stepped back in, and it was like stepping into a bubble. Here I couldn't hear anything. Here I had full sounds of the forest. Here I can't hear anything except my ears ringing, and here everything, all the sound is back. I'm like, what the hell? That was weird. And to this day, I've never heard anybody else mention anything like that. So I took a shot at the stump. Nothing moved. I shot on the stump again, but much closer this time. Still no move. And I'm like, well, it's got to be just, you know, dead weeds or something over there because it's all brown, kind of crunchy looking. 5 days later, I came back through with my ex-wife, and it was gone. It was freaking gone. So it had to have been something.
Yeah.
Something
Whatever
got-
it was an animate object that was very committed to making you believe that it was just a pile of bushes.
I'm glad I didn't like take a shot. You know, I really am. But
Well, one of the things that brings this up, you know, is their ability to, you know, even a flesh and blood physical being with enough training can move completely stealthily to the point where, like, unless you're ridiculously good, you're not going to hear them. So that's believable. They can do ridiculous stealth without needing any paranormal abilities. Where it becomes more problematic is when they're in absolute complete darkness, like maybe in a heavy thicket or something. And how in the hell are they seeing where they're going as they're navigating through this thicket in the darkness, trying to sneak around you, maybe 23 to 30 feet away, where, you know, realistically, you could hear a squirrel going through there.
yes,
And somehow you're not hearing them. How are they seeing where they're going? And me and Kevin talked about this quite a bit, you know, and he brought up something that when he was with Glag one time, they found a cave and they decided to go into it and check out the cave. And they didn't have to go in more than 15, 20 feet, you know, it was pitch black. He couldn't see shit. And Glag still wanted to keep going. So he was just following Glag, like hanging on to him. And he said he could have just kept going for I don't know how long. And he was going at normal speed. And he was like, slow down, buddy, slow down. I can't, you know, see where I'm going. And finally, they just turned around and came back out again. And he's, you know, I said, was there any evidence of like eye glow or anything like that? No. That wasn't how he was doing it. You can't do it with infravision. It's cold underground. It's all the same temperature. How are you going to see anything? So that isn't going to work either. And what we started thinking is, are they doing the same thing as bats? And Bigfoot anthropologist has been taking recordings of guys that are having Bigfoot encounters and going through the audio portion of them and trying to eliminate all the normal and known sounds and see what he's coming up with. And he's always coming up with all these clicks in the background.
yes.
Now, what if they're using those for echolocation? So again, they can do an ultrasonic click. We can't hear it. It just mapped the whole area like sonar for them. It's lit up like day. They can see everything, say 30, 40 feet around them, not step on anything that's going to give them away. And then when they get to the edge of that perimeter, they make another click, map the next little area, continue on. So anyway, that's a theory we're working on. It's not, you know, that's not paranormal, extraordinary, supernatural. There is a blind kid who trained himself to do that. And there's video on YouTube of him riding a freaking mountain bike through the mountains on a trail. And he's completely blind. And that's how he's navigating. He's clicking and listening to the sonar return.
Wow.
So if a blind kid can learn to do it, I have belief that Bigfoot could learn to do it.
I've heard clicks in the forest like that, though. You know, like like you know, when you're calling a horse, that, you know,
Yep.
through your. I've heard that.
Well, you know, one of the things
Really
that they do is
loud.
they click their teeth at you. But that's not exactly what I'm talking about. This is a little bit different. And some of these weird sounds he's been picking up.
Right. So yeah, this always sounded like a clicking sound, like, but not like teeth clamping, but like you're calling a horse, you know, or
Yep.
giddy up, the sucking through the side of your, you know, side of your mouth. You know,
Yeah.
like tongue against your teeth.
Yeah.
And I've heard that quite a few times out there.
Well, some of the noises they can make too, like you probably heard them do their mouth pop that sounds exactly like a wood knock.
Yeah.
And one of the guys who used to be on the research team with me, Jeff, he could do it. Man, you didn't want him to be standing next to you when he did that. It would deafen you. Your ear would ring. He could do it so freaking loud. And he's a little, you know, 5 foot nothing guy. Probably
Right.
weighs 150 pounds soaking wet. Well, imagine what a 10-foot Sasquatch could do if they were doing the same thing.
There you go.
You know, are they even hitting something against a tree? Or is it just a mouth pop that we think is a wood knock?
I have clapped my own hands with my fingers out so that my palms would cup and hit together like that, instead of taking like a limb and smacking a tree. Because to be honest with you, I've never actually found a limb that held up to really a real good smacking on a tree. They always break.
Yeah.
granted, their hands are bigger. They could swing something, you know, much bigger in diameter. But from all the so-called tree knocks that I've heard through the years, I can duplicate that same exact sound by clapping my hands together.
Right.
But very hard. I mean, it's going to sting a little bit, but it sounds like
But think about how big and strong they are. You know, their hands like a friggin' steam shovel. You know,
Yeah,
and
huge.
the other thing is, I have 2 different witnesses that have actually seen them make a woodlock knock like noise. Have seen them do it without a piece of wood.
Yeah.
One of them slapped a tree, and the other one kicked it.
Kicked a tree. Wow.
Kicked the bottom of the tree, and it made a wood knock.
Well, area I was just talking about where we were in and out of the sound, or I was in and out of the sound. That day we had taken my partner had said he'd read something about, you know, the tree knocks weren't actually tree knocks. They were taking a small rock and smacking it on a big rock. And I went, okay.
Well, rock clacks, yeah, but that doesn't sound the same as a wood knock.
It was a big granite stone that was buried in the ground that only a portion of it was exposed. And he took a freaking chunk of granite about that big, and I mean, he whacked it a couple of times. That's when that female showed up. It came in behind us. That was the day. Yeah.
Got her attention.
It sure did. She come running, man. I mean, she come running. So I don't know, man. But it actually, it was weird because it sounded like a tree knock, but because that rock was buried, I mean, man, it spread out across the ground.
Oh, I bet you it reverberated through the ground. That's what she picked up and went, "Ooh, this is a real one."
Ooh, a real guy.
Yeah, he's big. He made the ground vibrate. There's a stead.
Yeah, because I'm in heat, you know. Yeah.
Oh God, just what you want showing up behind you.
Right.
Female Sasquatch in heat. That's a bit confused.
Right. Oh my God.
Oh my God, this could have turned out very badly. So now, anyway, in addition to the Bigfoot and whatnot, you run across some other weird cryptids over there when you were in Europe.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff was that you ran into was actually included in local legendary that, like, maybe we wouldn't run into over here in North America?
In back, especially like the Pennsylvania Dutch, they called it, you know, the commonly accepted term today is called the apple snitch.
Alba twitches, yeah.
But it's actually the Alba twitch. Well, twitch is like a gliding elf. But
Yeah.
Alba, it was the region that I was from. The Schwäbisch Alb, which was about 20 kilometers away. And from the top of the ridge up there where the enchanted forest was, you could look across and see the Schwäbisch Alb, which was a big mountain over there. And it was just forest all the way from there to here. So we'd seen those little skinny, you know,
Mini squatches.
Well, that's another one because I'd seen that one too. In fact, there's one I called Shorty. It was the day I took my sister-in-law out using her as bait. She was like looking down in one of their blinds, and this thing came in between us. And it was really weird is that just prior to me swinging the camera to the right and seeing this thing standing with its back up against a tree, looking at her, looking back at me, and looking at her, I was about 20 feet from it. It was about 20 feet from her. But just prior to that happened, I had the camera to the left, and there was a streak of something that came by in front of the camera. I thought, what the hell was that, you know? But,
Yeah.
And then
Cryptid moving at ridiculous speed. That's what it was.
shoulder goes up, and he didn't look like a youngster Sasquatch. He looked very mature. In fact, he was pretty husky,
Right.
but completely covered in hair and probably 4 feet tall. Probably about 4 feet tall. I'd seen other things that looked like leprechauns. I saw one gnome with a pointy hat, but the pointy hat was blue.
Oh, good, because the red cap ones are murderous. It's a good thing you didn't run into one of those.
Well, this guy didn't look like he was too happy for me to be out there, but that was the same day that I got popped in the head with the orb, so who knows? I've seen all kinds of orbs, everything from rainbow orbs to white ones that were like, in fact, the one that hit me in the head was like an off-white, like the color of a softball.
Right.
Popped me in the head. There was one that I had seen. In fact, I saw it twice in one day. That looked like a ring of emeralds, just perfect emerald green rings, about that big. You know, like a 9-inch paper plate. The frickin' flying rods. And they're not bugs or birds, because both of those are clearly visible in the videos.
Yeah.
And in fact, they move so fast that you can't see them unless you slow it down. You take the video down to quarter speed, and you can see these things flying all over the place. And what was weird is that there was a Sasquatch in that tree, and there was another one back here in his bushes, and which was completely on opposite sides of this meadow that's so big you can see it from space. And those flying rods were flying back and forth between them. It was almost like, I wonder if that's some form of a email or instant message.
Sasquatch email.
Well, they are, really.
Yeah.
There was an alien. I got an alien. It was a mantis style, about 5 feet high instead of like the little grays. Though it was gray, it had a triangular shaped head like a praying mantis, but it was wearing a monk's robe with a hood, but the hood was down. And
all right, make sure you send the picture. We got to show everybody that one.
This is a very, very beautiful place. Let me throw the legs down. There we go. Too far. There we go. Alright, oh. Facial recognition's popping up. Wonder why. Anyway, this is what's behind that beautiful mess. That front. Like a nice.
I got another friend that was doing I don't know if I still have it. Make sure you resend it. I got another friend that was taking pictures of Sasquatch, and she saw one standing in the woods next to a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Took a picture of it. And when she looked at the picture afterwards, there's a freaking gray standing right next to it that she didn't see when she was taking the picture.
Yes. So there was these, I don't know what the hell these things were. That first day that I went up on the mountain, that was when I got surrounded and I got to meet Big Red and the ogre. There was this little being standing next to Big Red, apparently talking to it, addressing it, while he's like doing his number back and forth.
Oh shit! He's trying to work himself up.
Yeah, he was trying to screw up the nerve to come kick my ass.
Apparently, good God.
Yeah, I was in one of their blinds, using one of their blinds, and
why don't you just go take a pee on the tree structure while you're at it, Robert? What the hell?
I've done that when I've been like, kind of slow that day. But there's this little gray. It looks like a little gray dude, man, complete with black hair, but it looks like a black and white, almost like a black and white cartoon. Gray skin, gray clothes, darker gray pants, black hair, and probably 5 feet tall. And I'd seen those guys multiple times, but every single time I saw it, it was next to a Sasquatch, usually Big Red. multiple times, but it looked like a little human, without blood in it or something. I don't know. It was weird, but gray,
Yeah.
black hair. I don't know what the hell that was.
One of those, what do they call them, black-eyed pea kids or something?
Kind of, except it looked like a man, but just, even shorter than me.
Oh my God. So he was under 7 feet. So
You know?
everybody knows Bigfoot in Germany is almost 7 feet tall.
Oh,
with
yeah.
350 pounds.
Yeah, I'm almost 7 feet tall. Oh, man, I would like to see 6 feet. But yeah, that was one of the weird things. I'll tell you about the weird. Well, no, there's that other one. So there's a weird one, and then there's a weird one that scared the shit out of me. The weird one was, I swear to God, I saw Fred Flintstone sitting on a log at the bottom of the hill that I was coming down, in full cartoon glory, just standing there, or not standing there, but sitting on a log that was, laying on the ground. And I saw that and I went, what the hell? And I kept my eye on it as I'm walking towards it, and I tripped. And when I looked back up, poof, gone. This log was sitting like out kind of in the open, where it could have run to. Hell if I know. But there's when they were first in fact, most of the things over there, when they would first start to materialize, I called it cartoon mode, because you could see them, but they weren't in their full manifested glory, like, 8 foot tall covered in hair, or, a 4 foot tall covered in hair, whatever the being happened to be.
What does it look like? Do they fade in like a Star Trek transporter, or
Yes.
Okay.
Now, anything that was big that would fade in usually on the side of a tree. Just like that dogman did when I had the camera just, shooting into the sunlight. Smaller things would materialize usually in the grass, laying down, and then it would stand up. And when I first started doing my open hands, experiment there, they started getting up and walking forward to the edges of the tall grass. But yeah, they would usually show up laying down in the grass, like looking at me. But anything larger than about 4 feet literally bled through off the side of a tree. So, and then we hear about stories where they, cut down a tree and find a Sasquatch body, the bones, inside the tree, when there's no way for it to get into the tree. It's not like there's an opening at the top and it fell down. And
well, where did you hear that story from?
I've heard that multiple times, but then just recently on another website, there was a story of a lumberjack that had cut down a tree and found a very large skeleton in there with some like freeze dried fur, and the logging crew got yanked out of there, and for about a week until they got the area cleaned up.
What the F, man?
I know, right? So I've seen them come out of trees, and here's one that died inside a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's.
Now there was a report of one that got blown out of a tree. Apparently, it was climbing up a tree during a lightning storm, and the lightning hit the tree.
Oh my God!
And it took down the tree and blew up the Sasquatch pretty good too. And they had to like cart that away before anybody found it.
That hurt.
No shit. I actually know a side note. This is what happens to a human. I know a guy who was a roofing foreman, who was going around and checking job sites to make sure everything was battened down the hatches for the weekend, all that sort of stuff, because the boys weren't going to be around. Make sure all the tools are locked up and whatnot. And he puts the ladder up onto the roof and goes to climb up the ladder, and it slid sideways, hit an exposed power line.
Oh.
And they didn't know what happened to him. And he wasn't married or anything. His girlfriend didn't know where he was. And then Monday, my friend went to check the same job site and found his remains in the backyard. and his feet were still on the ladder.
Ugh.
It blew him apart right at the ankles, and at his hands actually were too. Right at the wrists and ankles, it blew the rest of his body off. Those parts were still like frozen fried onto the ladder.
Ugh.
So, moral of the story is make sure your ladder ain't anywhere near a damn power line before you climb up it.
Or pre-bathe in barbecue sauce.
Yeah. So you'll be smelly, yummy instead of smelly, icky.
I was 14 years old. My stepdad was a truck driver hauling building materials, basically anything that went into a house. And at the time, we were living back in Illinois in Tornado Alley, and we were at a particular job site delivering a bunch of sheetrock and plywood. But there was another stop on the truck, and it wasn't an enclosed truck; it was a flatbed, and that next stop was nothing but interior doors, so you can't get that shit wet, right? So we pulled the truck into this guy was a farmer and a crop duster. He used helicopters for crop dusting. We pulled into one of his aircraft hangars, and leaning against the back of the building was this big old gnarly oak tree. And my stepdad told me to get on the phone and call the office and let them know we were going to be late to the next because of weather. So I'm standing in a puddle of water, and I pick up the phone and I call the dispatch, and lightning hits that oak tree, goes through the steel building, through the freaking phone wires, which are tiny little bastards, right? I mean, they are little. It felt like I got hit in the side of the head with a sledgehammer, and I mean, it blew me like to my ass, literally, out of that puddle. And I walked back up and I picked up the phone, and I could hear the guy barely. It was really scratchy. Are you there? Are you there? You know, and lightning does strike the same place twice sometimes. And that was it. I walked back up and slammed that phone on the receiver, but I was screwed up for months after that. And that was after it went through a tree, through a building, and only whatever voltage could come out of those skinny little wires. That knocked the hell out of me. Yeah. I can't imagine being a golfer in Florida, you know, teeing off and getting hit, because those guys, they almost never make it.
Yeah, like Metallica says, ride the lightning.
Yeah. Ride the lightning. That hurt, man. In fact, it was that ear. To this day, it's that ear screwed up.
I got blasted by house voltage and barely survived that at one point, so kind of know how that is. Had critters chewing through the power line or the electric lines underneath the house, and one of them dropped onto the exterior pipe for the water. So when I went over to turn on the hose, that hurt. That hurt a lot. I'm lucky I didn't die.
Yes.
So anyway, getting away from horror stories of near death and back to the weird supernatural stuff.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, sure. You know, this comes up with the little people thing is another peculiarity. In a lot of these areas where you find heavy Bigfoot traffic, you find lots of little people too. Yes. And of course, it's been hypothesized that it's symbiotic to the extent that probably the little people have things they help them with. And as long as the Bigfoot are around the area, no big predators are going to be trying to eat any of the little people, because guess what's going to happen to them?
Yeah. Absolutely. But, you know, we didn't have any predators over there in Germany. In fact, the Germans were so efficient at genocide for the wolves and everything else. And, you know, they're kind of good at genocide.
Yeah. Well, if you want to see wolves in Germany, you can still go to the Black Forest and get attacked by a fucking werewolf.
Well, yeah, but that's a werewolf. I'm talking like
regular wolf. Okay, got it.
Regular ones. Although they are supposedly coming in from Russia into the central part of Germany now, but you know, to this day, the adults parents in general are so trusting that their forefathers killed everything that might possibly sniff a sheep wrong, that to this day they let their kids, young You know,
You can wander through the woods like it's a park, children. La 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 la.
exactly.
Our ancestors killed everything that moves a long time ago.
You know, yeah. It's, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen like a 6 or 7-year-old out there playing, got his dog and playing ball and walking through the woods all by himself. I'm like, what? Am I the only adult that finds this disturbing? Good grief.
Yeah, in America it'd be disturbing just because it's like, well, other humans could be out in the woods too. Not to mention all the predators. What the hell are you thinking about?
Yeah, even if they don't know about the Squatch or dogmen or anything else that might eat their children, what about, human predators?
Yeah, there's plenty of human nut jobs out there that'll grab your kid and
know?
sell them to a satanic cult for a slayer sacrifice.
Exactly. So yeah, they've got a whole different idea on society over there. They really do. But yeah, because I would have been more than happy to go out with my kid at 6 or 7. In fact, me and my daughter did many times, but I wouldn't let her go wander the woods by herself. Even if I knew there were no possible human predators around, I wouldn't. But then I know it's in the woods.
Go over that ridge line, but I hear yells behind me. I'm headed someplace that I shouldn't be. Yeah, the stomps are coming from up on top of the hill. Any more yells? I like to turn the camera that way, see if you guys maybe be able to pick it up. Oh, 2 directions. From this way. And from behind me, literally 180 degrees. It sounds like an owl. About 600-pound owl. I hope I'm not interrupting a hunting party. That would kind of suck. Let's look at the exits now. Electrical. It's behind me again. And now off to my right. Over there. I am getting zapped. I'm getting very dizzy. That is the fastest moving owl I think I've ever heard. Gotta be more than one of them. Ooh, that was quite a dizzy spell. I'm getting close to something. I don't want me to get next to it. There we go. Make sure I'm zoomed back. It'll make you guys sick. Yeah, okay, we're good there. I always leave the damn thing zoomed out at least one time per video. I don't see many conifers that have the branches that come all the way down to the ground over here. Let the legs down. There's a bunch of those up on top of the mountain, but I don't feel like spending the hour climbing up there. Not when the sun's this low. Let's see what's behind these logs. None of these conifers like these here, none of them are thick enough to hide a creature in. But when they're really thick, I mean really thick, like Christmas tree thick, they'll climb them, get in underneath. Yeah. There's a track. I'm 11 and a half. The toes are up there at the leaves. Goes back, the heel is back there by my heel. I don't know if you can see it. It's low, but it appears to be a right foot. That's here. Where's my phone? Use my hand instead. Those two right there. It's the heel up to. See, stick it off of me. Goes up here. Here's the toes. And then back around. Wow, pretty cool. I don't see tracks out here very often other than toe marks when they're climbing out of the creeks when their toes are able to dig in. I could just lose this mine in my pocket. And probably electrical again. 913. What the hell? I swear to you, I have nothing in my pocket that's electrical. All the batteries are in my pack. It's very strange. Really? 1,548. Now, the good question, or the big question is there something around me that I can't see? I turn left, of course. What if there's something around me? Most likely it would be on my right. Or on my left. I turned right. It's on my left. I can't even think straight. What the hell's going on here? The bird yipping at me. Do you see anything blurry? Do you see anything? There it goes again, 1,562. Wow. Probably heard in my left. I heard what sounded like a step. And then a bird chirp. Huh. This area does feel kind of strange. Screens on top of the hill. That's Bigfoot Mountain up there. That's some kind of a weird freaking bird, perhaps. The audio should pick it up. Never heard one like that, but it was very, very loud. Sounded very big. Oh, now magnetic too. So 1,562 volt. I'm sure that's like millivolts, but let's clear it. There it goes again. 244, 439. So the cap on this is actually the antenna. Underneath that is the antenna. I've got it in my pocket with the antenna pointed out. So. Interesting. There's my hand. Okay, here's the base right here. Goes up. There's the toes in there. And we have no bears here in Germany at all. There may be some down in the Bavarian Alps, but there are none here. None whatsoever. Oh, that's not a bear track. Up there, it was headed this direction. There should be another one somewhere. Facial recognition kicked on there for a second. Kicked on back in there. I know on my software that I use, the facial recognition kicks on for triangles. So 2 eyes and a mouth is basically what it looks for, but symmetrically. So if something is like warped, it's not going to pick it off as a face. But I wonder how it works in the cameras. We get down here, just more of this damn detector screen. Here's the water, or what's left of water. This is the creek. Doesn't appear to be flowing very much. There are places like over there where it's still kind of water. Alright, so here we go. Here's an X. And above it is an arch just coming off of a tree. That's the longest branch down low like that. It comes down and is pinned down in there somewhere. Yeah, right there. Goes up all the way back to the tree with an X. See a couple of them underneath it. Very cool. Very, very cool. Alright. Whatever that bird is, boy, he sure is. Sure is a happy camper. He's just ripping in. Let's see, do I want to cross? Yeah, I think I do.
And if you even read Little Red Riding Hood, they're not thinking about what's potentially still out there. Grandma, what big sharp teeth you have.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I wonder how much cover-up they have to do on the Schwarzwald every year. Because it comes to my attention pretty regularly that a bunch of people go missing in that frickin' place every year. And how do they keep accounting for that?
Let's hope my current wife is one of them. She moved there. She now lives in the Black Forest. So who knows? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I had a viewer send me a picture that she had taken in her front bay window, and her property is right next to the Black Forest. Yes. And there's a frickin' dog man looking in her window at her.
Wow.
She got 4 pictures of it. It moved.
Who is this?
Somebody who has been on the show. I can't reveal identity.
Because there's a gal, another gal over there. So Claudia was my the only real research partner that I had over there. But she lived up in Wiesbaden, and there's a city nature park right 3 blocks from where she lives. But that city nature park, if you just keep walking up the hill, keep going, it goes out, it empties out into the middle of the forest. And on the other side of it, there's another gal there that also does research, and she's literally in the last building on the street, or on her street, last building right there next to the woods.
Oh God.
In the downstairs apartment, and they come to the back patio and look in the door all the time.
Does it happen to be the last house on the left?
Yes. Last house on the left.
Just wondering.
Yeah, probably the same person.
Oh my God. Well, no, that's that famous horror movie from when we were kids, The Last House on the Left.
Okay. Okay. I thought because yeah. So between her, there was one other gal. She was Welsh. In Frankfurt, in the city center of Frankfurt, is another one of those big nature parks. And there are a few very, very wealthy people that have houses within there. There's like little cottages in there. And her husband is a doctor, very, very well-paid doctor. They have a little cottage there, and literally out her back doors looks like right out into the forest. And she found all kinds of crazy, especially when you're dealing with little people and elves and things that fall into the same categories, like say a leprechaun.
Yeah.
She got lots of that on video. And
oh God.
She was gone. Literally, poof, gone. And the last I heard when I left, they still hadn't found her. I don't know if it was her husband did her in, or
little people invited her to come visit, and they're not bringing her back.
Hey, come check out Avalon.
Yeah, come check out our house. It's really cool. You bring me back, right? Sure. Time flows differently here. It might be 100 years or so, but yeah, we'll bring you back.
she claimed she had brownies in the house, and I'm like, well, I got in trouble when I was a Cub Scout for eating those things.
Yeah, not that kind of brownie.
Oh, those kind. Oh, okay, yeah.
Not the magical brownies either.
Wait, magical brownies? I haven't heard of those yet.
Never mind. I'm not going to tell you about them now.
Okay, damn.
You know, getting to the little people,
My
there
back hurts, you know.
that pops up a bit. Apparently, I got one on video. I'm not sure. I had two different people look at the same piece of video and look at the same spot on it and go, "There's a little person right there." So I guess I'm still in denial because I'm not going to say it was a little person. But I've had two other people look at it and go, "There's a little person right there."
The thing that I found over there is that there are a couple categories like the gnomes or the red hats that can be pretty nasty. But I never ran into one of them. Never once. And I've seen hundreds of them over there. Literally, I'm not. That's not an exaggeration. Now, it could have been the same ones over and over on multiple days. But at any given point, when I would walk up to the meadow, when I first get out of the car and scan the tree line, 40, 50 of them right at any given time. So, but I never had not once did I ever have any of them, screw with me. Well, there was Moose, but that was
okay to screw with the dog, though. That doesn't count.
Yeah, that was tragic, and he started it, I guess. He didn't like those things. Anything that was not what we would, recognize with our five senses, we didn't like it at all. Sasquatch, cloaked or otherwise, little people, cloaked or otherwise, and there were the farm field just before, that strip of grass. There was this one shrub hedge there that I'd already been hit in the head and gone through the whole process of getting rid of that bad roommate. I could see them, but it was like looking through maybe fog or something. And so I started talking to them, trying to coax them out into like full manifestation. And Moose was out running around. I had him on a really long leash. He was the rye field was in the farmland, so he's over there, playing like it was a snowdrift or something. And then I'm running up next to me, like, okay, we're ready to continue our walk. And then he looked forward, saw them, and immediately started to lunge. And I, locked back the leash and got him to finally sit. And I keep trying to talk to them, and they're coming out more and more and more. And Moose finally just, boom, he went and actually broke the lock on the leash, and he got a hold of one of them.
Oh shit!
Here's the thing. I've never seen, because he was really a sweetheart, but I've never seen a dog go that over the top violent in my life. He hit it, and they ended up tumbling, and I could see his mouth had to be bitten into something because the teeth weren't completely closed on themselves. They were like that,
Right.
And he's like, they're tumbling ass over tea kettle towards that creek, the same creek. And whatever it was, as they got close to the water, Moose let go, or it got away, whatever, and it hit the water. And I saw the water splash because I was, chasing him. And you could see footprints down the water and then up through the grass, and then you couldn't see anything anymore, but it was moving pretty quick. Moose had just had his annual checkup, which also included cancer screening, and he was clear. He was dead 28 days later, literally dead from the worst cancer that it was a type of lymphoma. which from what I understood, dogs weren't supposed to get, according to the specialist that I saw in Stuttgart, the vet specialist I'd taken him to. Yeah, like, we don't know, you know, dogs aren't supposed to get this type of cancer, and yet
Yeah.
he has
Well,
it.
well, that fast, you know, how radioactive was this little sucker?
Well, there you go. How effective was it, you know? But it didn't, they had never once ever screwed with me. So yeah, okay. It really sucks because I really loved that dog. He was like more of like a best friend than a pet, you know. But he started it.
Yeah. Well, that's sad too, because you might have been able to coax more close interaction with them if that hadn't happened.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the little people here in North America, the reputedly worst ones, of course, are the red caps and the puckwudgies, although red caps are Northern European, probably came over here at the Pilgrims or something, whatever. You know, there's reports of them over here, but it's puckwudgies are the local really bad ones. And probably the second worst on the continent are the ones we have here, the Narumbi, which are not like 100% hostile. They're only about 90% hostile.
Well, there's you know,
And they have super strength, super speed, use poison weapons, work in gangs. Yeah. And the natives here are way more scared of the little people than they are Bigfoot. Way more scared of them.
that too. Yeah. Newman's Ridge, Eastern Tennessee, is where my mom's side of the family, and they, you know, Welsh and bred with the Cherokee. They were scared to death of them over there on the eastern edge of Tennessee. Absolutely scared to death of them, and it was weird. I had heard of was it North Carolina? They were trying to build a university or a city college, you know, local college.
Oh, where they found the tunnel system underneath it already there? Yeah, that was really creepy.
That was very creepy, you know, and they were the right size for a little person, but not for.
Yeah, human on hands and knees or a little person standing upright. The other thing is, I think it was in Georgia or it was somewhere near there on the East Coast where they found an ancient graveyard. And there were a whole lot of skeletons in it, and all of them were 3 feet or shorter.
Oh, jeez. And
they were adults.
So then you have to ask yourself, in today's, you know, the way things are today, what's real? I mean,
yeah.
You know.
Well, we know that our mainstream media is lying their ass off continuously, purposely, and constantly, so you don't have to even think about believing anything they're telling you.
Exactly.
Go do your own research.
But